every version of the man you want to become already exists in a book. You just haven't read it yet. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another ASMR video. And for the topic of this video, we will be going over reading books. It will change your life. Now, many of us, myself included, when we finish school, we kind of take a break, right? We don't keep up with our math, our science, our subjects basically, and that's all fine. But a lot of us drop reading, whether it be reading books, reading scripture, passages, poems, whatever it may be. A lot of us end up dropping the art of reading purely because we see no need to read anymore. We're done with school, we don't have to analyze our books that we read, the literature that we consume. However, I'm here to tell you that that is a very big mistake. I believe all men should read books even after school. Now, it doesn't have to be some crazy thick book, some crazy piece of literature that is hard to understand and comprehend. It can be something as simple as a fiction book. It could be something such as a life improvement book or a self-improvement book. But most men nowadays don't read books, whether it be physical, paperback, hardcover, whether it be on your phone, whether you listen to an audiobook, which I still believe audiobooks, they do give you the same results as reading a normal physical book. It's just personal preference in my opinion. But those men that don't read, that don't try to read these books, they stay the same. You don't read about these characters that in this book it's different. The way you perceive these characters, the way you use your imagination to think them up, the way they act, those characters in that book, you can become them. However, you won't know about them until you read. And one other thing about reading is it gets your imagination going. A very underrated aspect is the imaginative side, right? These books, they give you descriptions of characters, especially in fiction books. And it's up to you to use your imagination to conjure up these characters in your head. Everyone has a different version of what this character looks like. I'm sure there's different fan art, there's different renditions of these characters. However, you have your own in your head, and that's when the imagination and your creativity start to flow. That is where it can stem from, and that's how you become more creative, how you start building more, how you start thinking better. But it all starts when you read. You get a description and your imagination just starts firing away. Reading forces your mind to slow down and focus. Too often are people scrolling on their phone, not even consuming what is in front of them. They're kind of just scrolling, brain dead, mouth breathing, purely to get a dopamine rush, right? But reading forces you to read the passage in front of you. It forces your brain to, again, get going. It forces you to slow down and focus on what's in front of you. You can't skip 20 pages ahead and try to figure out what's going on. You can't flick through the book and say that you've read it. That's not how it works. It just forces you to slow down and increases your attention span. phones, they have a hard time focusing, they have a hard time being present, and they have a hard time being attentive. Whereas if you read, you become more attentive, you become more focused, you can focus more for a longer period of time. Books also teach you about discipline, patience, and deep thinking. There's a term called inferred purpose. Essentially, it's just reading between the lines. A book might not give you everything you need to solve a problem within the book, right? Such as a murder mystery. However, you will start reading between the lines, you'll start reading how these characters act, and you will piece your own puzzle together, and you may get the right answer, you may not get the right answer. However, the deep thinking aspect, you don't get that from scrolling on your phone, right? But you can start thinking more deeply and more purposefully about different things. One book genre will help more than the other in a certain aspect. Fiction improves your imagination, like I stated. Your ability to just think of things on the fly, to be creative, to look at something and build upon it. Whereas non-fiction improves your clarity. It kind of gives you a path, it gives you a direction. And one of the best things I've heard in a very long time about reading fiction is there's a lot of good messages within fiction books, but why would someone hide their deepest, potentially darkest lessons that they've learned and just write it in a non-fiction format? They would hide it within a fiction book, so you can still get the lesson, but not many people can comprehend or understand it unless it was written out clearly for them. And I found that to be an interesting way to think about reading. Yes, you have these books, these non-fiction books that kind of guide you, right? They tell you what to do, or they give you an outline of what to do, and you can do it, and you can see the results. However, fiction gives you more deeper lessons. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to figure out what they are. But when you do figure out what they are and how they can help you, it's amazing what you learn from fiction. The man who reads becomes dangerous in the best way. You've got two people, one man that reads, one man that doesn't. Let's say they're both fit, they're both healthy, they both know a combat sport. Which man's more dangerous? Probably the man that reads, because their brain is much more smarter than the other fella, right? And that's an underrated thing about reading, is that it works on your brain. Again, it improves your literacy, your critical thinking, your deep thinking. It works your brain unlike anything else. And you learn so many lessons from reading these books if you read the right book. A book a month will change your year. A book a week will change your life. So the more often you read, the more you'll learn, the more you'll learn, the more your life will change. Now, I'm not fussed with how often you guys read. However, keep it consistent. Read a chapter a day. Read a page a day if you have the time. Read a book a week, again if you have the time. Fit it within your schedule. But just start reading. Pick up a book that appeals to you, right? Don't pick up some random book that you don't believe you're going to get anything out of. But pick up a book that you believe will help you and that you find interesting. Eventually, the more books you read, the more lessons you learn, and the more you narrow down what books you like. And again, there will be characters within these books, main characters, side characters, bad guys, and you just take aspects from these characters and you're like, okay, I like this from this person, this from that person. Let's see if I can incorporate them into myself. Maybe it's the way they speak in the book, maybe it's the way they hold themselves in the book, the way they act, a multitude of different reasons, right? And reading helps you escape your environment and build a new identity. It gives you, in a sense, an outlet, because you're reading and whatever you think of stays up in your head. You don't need to say it out loud, you don't need to do anything. You just sit there and read. In a sense, it's like gaming helps you escape your environment and build a new identity. Because again, you're taking all these aspects from all these different books, all these different characters, incorporating them into yourself. And that's how you can learn to become better. Now, you've got to stop saying that you don't have time to read. You do. You just waste that time scrolling on your phone, playing video games, lazing around. Like I said earlier, start as little as a page a day, or even a chapter a day. You could do 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, whatever fits in your schedule, and then eventually you'll figure out what works. Can I add more? Do I need to read less? Do I need to find a different book? But you just need to start somewhere, keep it consistent, and figure out what works for you. And eventually you'll find that reading will compound like money. Over time, you start gaining all this knowledge and all these lessons from all these different books that you can use them in everyday life, and it will help you so much. The amount of lessons I've learned from books that you can't find on YouTube, Instagram, online, it's insane. And now there's one final quote I want to leave you guys off with before we wrap this up. And that is, you're one book away from becoming unrecognizable by the end of the year. Now, if you enjoy Whispered Motivation like this, support me on Patreon. It helps me keep creating these videos, and you'll get exclusive ASMR lessons I only post there. Link is in the description. Now guys, that'll do it for this video. Hopefully you all did enjoy and take something away from this one. But as always guys, peace.